You've heard the stories about the dark web, those mysterious corners of the internet where anything can happen. But what if I told you that one night I crossed into that world? And what I found still haunts me to this day. It started innocently enough. Just me and my friends, exploring rumors, looking for the strangest things we could find online. But then, I stumbled upon something real. Something much darker than we ever imagined. A marketplace that sold urine. Yeah, you heard that right. And that was only the beginning. Keep watching, because what happened next is something I'll never forget. But before we start, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll never miss a spine-tingling episode. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to like, comment, and share the video. And if you want even more, stay connected with us on our social media platforms for more creepy content. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. And now let's dive into the darkness together. I'll never forget the first time I heard about the dark web and the insane things people said you could find there. Back in high school, my friends and I were obsessed with internet legends and spent hours exploring places like Reddit and anonymous forums, looking for the weirdest, most shocking content we could find. We weren't hunting for anything in particular. We just liked the thrill of the unknown and the unpredictability of what we might come across. Our generation was particularly drawn to this sort of exploration. It was the first time many of us had a personal computer and internet access, and we were left to our own devices to figure things out. I mean, we grew up with programs like LimeWire, where you could download anything, music, videos, even games, and never know what you were going to get. One minute you might think you're downloading a song, and the next thing you know, you're staring at something way darker. The dark web was a big topic in our discussions. At first, it was just casual chatter, fueled by rumors and creepy stories we read online. But over time, our curiosity only grew. The more we learned, the more intrigued we became by the idea of accessing this hidden part of the internet, the last frontier where anything could be discovered. We started looking into how you could actually get there, knowing we didn't want to use our main computers or personal devices. Being high school kids with zero disposable income, buying a burner laptop was out of the question, but I just couldn't shake the urge to take the plunge. Eventually, I decided to try accessing it from my own computer at home. After days of research and tweaking, I figured it out. I'm not going to walk you through how to do it, though. Trust me, it's a rabbit hole best left unexplored. It's surprisingly easy to access the dark web once you know what you're doing. The tough part is finding anything once you're there. Unlike the normal internet, there aren't standard URLs. You need very specific web addresses to access sites. It's a way of keeping out people who aren't familiar with the system. But I wasn't about to let that stop me. I turned to my old haunt, an anonymous forum where users swapped tips, and after a few days of bartering, I finally got a list of links. Thousands of them. I remember feeling lightheaded as I scrolled through the list. It was like a treasure map. Only instead of gold, it promised the strangest and most dangerous places. I started clicking on links one by one, hoping to find something insane. But the first few I clicked on were just dead websites. I was ready to give up, thinking I'd been scammed. But I wasn't about to quit after spending so much time talking about this with my friends. So, I decided to take a risk, skipping ahead in the list to a sketchy-looking link. This time it worked. I had found some kind of marketplace, but not like anything you'd find on eBay. The items up for sale were unsettling, things you could never buy in a normal store. I remember stumbling upon a bizarre site where people were selling different types of urine. Yes, urine. And not just any urine, but specifically clean urine for drug testing purposes. It was exactly the kind of weird, unsettling stuff I had been hoping to find. I spent hours on that site, taking it all in, and by the end of the night, I was ready to tell my friends about what I'd discovered. When I did, they were blown away. They couldn't believe I had actually found something like that, especially not on my own computer. Of course, they all started asking if the FBI was watching me, and while they joked, every one of them wanted to see the site for themselves. For weeks, after school and when my parents were away, my friends would come over, and we'd try more links from the list. It was hosted on one of those old text-sharing sites, so anyone could modify the document. We kept track of which links were working and which were dead, noting down all the weird, disturbing things we found. Eventually, we moved on to darker places, like a forum where people were supposedly offering hitman services. There were profiles of people claiming to be assassins, detailing their skills and the targets they were willing to take on. Some of these services were pretty high-end, with prices ranging from $20,000 for a regular job to hundreds of thousands for high-profile hits. We were skeptical. Most of us figured it was all fake, just people role-playing or making things up. But we got curious. So we made an account on the Hitman forum, just to see if we could learn anything more. It wasn't hard to sign up. It was designed to be as anonymous as possible. One day, while we were browsing, a small blue bubble appeared in the corner of my screen. It looked like a tiny eyeball, and I thought it was just some weird glitch. But when I ignored it and kept exploring, the bubble stayed there. When we were done for the day and my friends were about to leave, I noticed it again. Still there, even after closing everything. I tried everything to remove it, restarting my computer, running antivirus scans, you name it. But it was stuck. I didn't think much of it. Being a dumb teenager, I figured it would go away eventually. Weeks passed, and we kept exploring. We found another website, this time a black market for hackers, where people posted resumes listing their abilities. There were even tutorials for selling malware or setting up keyloggers. Despite everything on that site being incredibly shady, we felt oddly safe there. After all, we were just high school kids. That was until one day when the little blue bubble disappeared. We all joked about it, laughing off the weirdness of it. But then, a message popped up on the screen. It was from an administrator on the website. The message said something like this: "We've been monitoring your activity since your first visit to our site. You seem to have no intention of purchasing any services, and it looks like you're just browsing around. But you should know that there are some serious hackers here and your connection isn't protected." He continued by saying that I had picked up a hitchhiker while exploring the dark web, a person who had been tracking all my online activity. The admin warned me that the person could not see me, but they could see everything I was doing online, likely in an attempt to blackmail me. The admin then asked if I had noticed the blue bubble. I told him yes, and he confirmed it was the hacker tracking my activity. He had already removed the hitchhiker from my computer, but warned me to get off the dark web before I ran into even bigger problems. We were all in shock, but one of my friends asked, "How do we know you're not just messing with us?" That's when the admin responded with our full names, addresses, and the name of our high school. The room went dead silent, and without another word, we immediately shut everything down. I never went back to the dark web after that. I've always been intrigued by the anonymity and freedom of the darker corners of the internet, a place where societal norms are stripped away. As a teenager, I delved deep into the dark web, drawn by the unfiltered, raw content. At 15, I stumbled upon a forum where people shared illegal content. It was a dark revelation, offering a sense of belonging I couldn't find in my real life. School was a joke, my parents absent, and my peers were more into sports and parties than anything meaningful. The forum became my escape, where people discussed hacking, drugs, weapons, and even murder. At first, I was just a lurker, reading posts and learning the ropes. But over time, I became a regular contributor, sharing tips on bypassing security, trading illegal downloads, and discussing the latest cybercrimes. My reputation grew, but I craved more. When I turned 17, I discovered Red Rooms, live streams where people could pay to watch others be tortured and killed. I clicked on a link, and the reality of what I saw on the screen, a man tied to a chair, bloodied and bruised, changed me. I felt both horror and excitement, a sick thrill I couldn't shake. By the time I turned 18, I was entrenched in the Red Room community. I connected with others, learned the trade, and even dabbled in blackmail. But I wanted to go further. Then I met someone called Reaper, a notorious figure in the dark web. He saw potential in me and mentored me, teaching me how to cover my tracks and even commit murder. My first kill was methodical and efficient. A homeless man who wouldn't be missed. It was quick, clinical, and I felt a rush of power. I documented everything and uploaded it under a new username, Ghost. The response was overwhelming, and I did it again, each time becoming bolder, targeting people who would be missed. But soon, the thrill faded, and I needed something more. I introduced interactivity into my kills, letting my audience decide the victim's fate. My first interactive kill was a woman, and the viewers voted on what I should do next. The power I felt knowing others were watching me was indescribable. I became a star in this twisted world, with fans and requests flooding in. However, fame came with risks. I knew law enforcement was always lurking, but the thrill was too addictive. My collaboration with Reaper became more dangerous, targeting high-profile victims. Our biggest game involved a politician who had been cracking down on cybercrimes. We executed the plan flawlessly, but as we finished, I began to feel uneasy. Reaper, however, reassured me that we were untouchable. Then, everything fell apart. I received a chilling message. Someone had found me. The following night, while setting up for a new kill, armed men burst in. I was arrested, my identity exposed, and the media had a field day. Reaper vanished, leaving me to face the consequences alone. In prison, I learned to survive. The dark web was out of reach, but the underground economy within the prison was thriving. I used my skills to build a network, offering hacking services, and soon caught the attention of a powerful prison gang, the Brotherhood. They asked me to eliminate a guard, and I carried out the job, earning their trust. With their backing, I began smuggling in devices and re-established contact with my old associates. Yet, despite everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that my past would catch up to me. One night, while preparing for a new job, I received an anonymous message saying I was being watched. I showed it to Reaper, but he dismissed it. The next target was a tech mogul, but during the operation, something went wrong. The system was hacked, and armed men burst in. I was caught and sent back to prison. Now, as I sit in my cell, I reflect on everything. The thrill, the power, the darkness, it's all gone, replaced by the reality of prison life. But even here, I know that my story isn't truly over. I've rebuilt a network within these walls. I'll survive. And as long as there's darkness in me, the game isn't finished. When this event took place, I was a naive 20-year-old, completely immersed in online gaming. My laptop had broken, so I used my older brother's computer without asking for permission. While browsing for games, I came across a website that caught my attention with its appealing design. This was before I ever used social media platforms like Facebook, and many gaming websites were riddled with bugs and questionable security measures. I never gave it much thought, but I now know that visiting unknown sites could expose your computer to viruses and other dangers. At the time, however, I was too careless to worry about it. One afternoon, I got bored and decided to use my brother's computer again. I typed "cool games" into the search bar, hoping to find something fresh to play. Most of the links led to familiar websites, but then, a strange pop-up appeared in the corner of the screen, displaying the words, "Death Games." It seemed like just another ad, but for some reason, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was different from the usual pop-ups. Curiosity got the best of me, so I clicked it. The screen initially went blank, but soon enough, words appeared. "Hello, do you want to watch someone die?" Click the button to proceed. The text was in bright red, dripping down like blood. It looked cheesy, but still, something about it intrigued me. I stared at the blinking button for a moment before it changed again, reading, "What's the matter? Scared? It's just a game. Click now and keep going." After thinking it over for a second, I shrugged and clicked yes, expecting some absurd game to load. What I saw next was nothing like what I expected. The animation was crude, showing 3 characters. 2 were men, looking like cartoonish thieves, while the third, a woman, appeared terrified and tied to a chair. The animation was poorly done, but it felt unsettling, especially when one of the men locked eyes with me and gave a creepy smile. He spoke, "Do you want to see her die?" Then, 2 buttons appeared, yes and no. I hesitated for a moment, but clicked yes without thinking much about it. The man put on a butcher's apron and appeared next to the woman, who was now lying on an operating table. What happened next was disturbing. The man used a hacksaw to begin cutting into the woman's body, and her screams sounded too realistic for an animation. I felt a chill as I realized how well the sound effects were done, making the scene feel almost too real. I tried to laugh it off, but it felt wrong and I couldn't look away. Then, the next scene started. This time, the two men were in scuba gear, and their victim was a man dressed in a suit. The man was dragged toward a large body of water, screaming and begging for mercy. The entire scene played out with incredibly detailed sound effects. His screams, the splashes, and the eerie silence afterward. Eventually, the man was dragged under by something large, and the animation showed him without his arms, as if they had been torn off. A massive creature, perhaps an alligator, was responsible for pulling him away. I felt sick and repulsed. This wasn't fun anymore. It had become too dark, too real. I was desperate to leave, but then the screen shifted again. The two men were no longer animated. They were real people, standing in a grim, dimly lit room. The body of a dismembered woman lay nearby, and one of the men was holding a piece of clothing that seemed to belong to her. The distorted voice returned. "Wasn't that enjoyable? You wanted to see more, and we gave you what you wanted. But now it's your turn. Don't leave. The fun will end if you do." The screen presented 3 new options. Yes, I want to experience it. No, I don't want to experience it. And I want to meet you. Panic set in. I quickly clicked no and tried to exit the site, but nothing happened. The screen changed again. "You clicked yes before. Don't pretend you didn't want to see more. You've seen what we can do, so don't back out now." I began to hyperventilate. My heartbeat was racing as I kept clicking no in desperation. Finally, the page closed, and I could breathe again. My hands were shaking uncontrollably, and I was terrified. I immediately checked my browser history, but the website had vanished without a trace. A few minutes later, my brother came home. I was still in shock, and he asked what I had been doing. I explained everything, and he immediately took the computer from me. After doing something I didn't understand, he shut it down and scolded me for using his computer without asking. He explained that what I had seen wasn't a regular website, but part of something much darker. The dark web. My brother, who studied computer science, had the knowledge to access it. He told me that he had blocked the website with a code, and that he needed to check the computer for any signs of compromise. I was still shaken and asked if everything I saw was real. He confirmed it was, explaining that those behind the content were very dangerous. I suggested we contact the authorities, but he urged me not to. He said we'd be putting ourselves in serious danger if we did. That terrified me even more. The next day I asked him about it again, and he reassured me that everything was under control. I never learned exactly what he did or who he contacted, but I've never forgotten that night. If you've experienced a terrifying event or have a horror story to tell, we at AG Horrors want to hear from you. Share your experiences with us on Reddit, and let's uncover the mysteries hiding in the shadows together. And if you want to support the channel and help us bring even more terrifying content, consider checking out our support options on Patreon or Ko-fi. Your support means the world to us. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more spine-chilling stories like this one. And now, stay tuned for the next horror episode.